Pencil Kings, 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 Pencil Kings.
All right, we're back. It's Wednesday. This is the Pencil Kings podcast. And today there's no guest, and there's a good reason for that, and I'll explain that in just a second. We're going to talk today about consistency and why I think this is one of the biggest things that you can focus on that you may not be thinking about right now. So I'm not sure how familiar you are with Pencil Kings or the story or where you came into our journey of helping artists, but there was a time a few years ago when the promise was always, when you're a member of Pencil Kings, we'll have one new course for you a month. So people would join, and that would be great. However, it was so difficult for us to come out with that one lesson a month. Sometimes it would take us 5 weeks to get a lesson out, sometimes 7 weeks. Sometimes we would do 2 lessons or 2 courses in a month. There's just no consistency to it. And consistency is something that I feel like if you feel like your skills aren't where you want them to be, you could go back and take a step back and look at consistency as the skill that you may want to start looking at and try to develop that. And what I mean by consistency is that you show up all the time when you're supposed to show up. And how that ties into today's podcast is that we've been really busy working on some cool new things. And in that, we just haven't been able to get guests on the show. We've been focusing on other things, and it came to today, and it's like, wow, there's no one to interview today. So here I am by myself, but even though there was no guest, I know that there's people listening. They're waiting to have your episode come out. And so we need to still do something. And I think this message of consistency is really important. So a few years ago, what I decided that we needed to do was to focus on being so consistent so that people know that they can depend on us. They know that a podcast episode will come out every Wednesday. They know that there'll be a new course coming out for them on the 1st and the 15th of each month. And it will happen like clockwork. You can depend on us. If we break that, then we're sort of breaking that trust. And when you look at how you're treating yourself with your own art study, are you being consistent? Are you putting in the time each day to let your skills develop naturally? And from talking to people, I feel like a lot aren't. And I think what's cool about consistency is that instead of feeling like bad about, maybe you can't draw something and you're struggling and you're trying to learn it and you keep doing it and you feel like you're not making any progress. Instead, when you focus on consistency, I feel like that's something that you can start to feel good about. It's a place where you can start to get some strength because you know that you can look back and say, like, wow, I've drawn every day for at least 15 minutes a day for 15 days in a row. That's amazing. I was never able to do that before. And it comes from putting that emphasis on the thing that you want to focus on. So the first thing I want to talk about is how to be consistent. It's one thing to just say, I'm going to draw every day for 15 minutes a day or an hour a day or whatever it is, but you can go so much deeper with that. So what I'd like to encourage you to do is to schedule a time when you're going to do the thing that you want to do. I'm just going to use the example of drawing, but you could use this for going to the gym, spending time with your family, learning another language. It doesn't have to only be applicable to art. And I think that's what's so cool is that through the study of art, we're uncovering and touching on a lot of things that you can use that can improve your life in general. So figure out what that time is in the day when you're going to do the thing that you want to focus on. And then schedule it out so that nothing else comes during that time so you can actually put it in. I feel like there's one, if you just say, I'm going to draw, but you don't have that set time, it's very easy for something else to creep into your life. So it's really difficult for you to be consistent and stick with it every day. So some tips for doing this and when to schedule our time. I feel like there's morning people and there's night people. During the middle of the day, I've never heard somebody say, I'm a middle of the day person. That's when I get the bulk of my best work done because life is just, being hurled at you during most of the day. So either early in the morning or really late at night, that's when you schedule your time for the thing that you want to be consistent with. And I would suggest earlier in the morning because by the end of the day, a lot of things could have happened during the day that could put that nighttime in jeopardy. So for me, first thing in the morning is the best time for the thing that I want to be consistent about. And just a note here, a really quick note. You don't want to be consistent about too many things at once. You're basically developing a new habit here. So if you're trying to, learn drawing, learn a language, learn cooking, and you keep stacking these things on, and I know that I've been guilty of doing this before, you have that moment where, like January 1st, right? When you've got all of your New Year's resolutions and you just say, I'm going to do all these things. I'm going to become a completely new, amazing person. I would highly recommend not to do that. Just choose one simple thing and work on that and build from there. So the next thing I want to talk about is what happens when you fall down. I know for myself, there's a 3-week period where I'm trying to be consistent with things, and I do amazing. It's very easy for me to stick with something for 3 weeks in a row or 21 days. But something happens at that 21-day point that I seem to fall off the wagon, and then before I know it, months go by and I haven't done that thing anymore. So for me, I know when I'm going to fall down, and I think for yourself, you can look back at your past history when you've tried to do things. And great examples to look at are getting in shape, eating healthy is another good one. I think those are the two that most people have tried at some point to improve their health, either by exercise or with food, and see how long you're able to stick with it before you fell off the wagon. And once you know that, then you can mentally prepare and say, okay, I know that at 3 weeks, I'm going to stop going to the gym for some reason, or I know at 3 weeks, I'm going to stop drawing for some reason. What can I do at 3 weeks to reward myself and set another goal to continue for another 3 weeks? So it's almost like you reset the counter and then you just go back to it, but you're stacking the time. So you're going way past that 3-week period where you fall down. And from talking with a lot of people, I've realized that most of us have this fall down time, and it's different for everybody. So just look back at your past performance and see, and then mentally prepare for it so that when you, let's say after 3 weeks, you miss a day, what are you going to do to get back onto it? And it's not punishing yourself. It's usually just recognizing, hey, I fell off the wagon. Wow, it happened just like I knew it was going to happen. But I knew that this was going to happen, so here's what I'm going to do next to get back and continue on for another 3 weeks and keep going like that. Now, my most recent example, since learning this and trying this, I tried it earlier this year. 3 weeks was fine, and I knew I was going to fall down, so I continued on. And I was using this to go to the gym. So I was being consistent and having the gym as my big priority for the day. So I did 3 weeks. I didn't fall down. I did another 3 weeks, and then I fell down. So for me, it seems like, and I'm always evaluating and trying this stuff out to see what works for myself, is that there's sort of like a magical 3-week chunk. So I was able to do 6 weeks, but then I fell off. So just be aware of how it works for yourself and see what you can do. Okay, the next thing to talk about is making your habit or the thing that you're focusing on your number one priority. It might sound a little bit funny to say, drawing is my number one priority, because I feel like for a lot of people, drawing is something nice that you want to do. It's like a challenge that you have for yourself, and you're just trying to continually improve your skills. But if you can take the time and approach it as saying, like, for where I'm at right now in my life, drawing is my number one priority. So I'm going to schedule it like it's that high of a priority. I'm going to put it first thing in the morning. I'm going to dedicate time for it. If somebody wanted to do something during that time period, I'm going to say no. Let's say your drawing time is from 7:30 to 8 a.m. and that's the time every day that you can do it before you have to go to work or before you have to go to school or whatever. And somebody asks you, hey, do you want to join? We're doing this brunch on Saturday, but we're going to do it we're going to start at 7. And you know that you have your drawing time scheduled for then. When you're making this your number one priority, it becomes a lot easier for you to say no to those things that life is going to throw at you so that you can stay consistent with what you're doing. So here's how it'd look. Your time is 7:30 to 8 a.m. Somebody says, hey, we're doing this brunch. We're going to start at 7 and we're going to be done at 8:30. You'd say, no, I can't do it. I'm trying to stick with this habit, and 7:30 to 8 is my time. So I'll see you guys after the brunch. I'll try and make it for the end. Save a piece of toast for me, or whatever it is. Or you could say, okay, well, I really want to do this brunch, but I'm going to take that 7:30 to 8 time when I normally go and do my art, and I'm going to put that time back to, let's say maybe like 6 a.m. So it'd be 6 to 6:30, then you have half an hour to get ready, and then you would show up at the brunch at 7. The main thing, though, is that you stick with the set time as much as possible. And this is a big thing that I think a lot of people don't realize of. You're able to do the things that you can do in your life easily because you've fallen into routine. You've developed a routine around it. So if you want to improve your drawing, you need to have a routine of doing your drawing every single day. And even though you might realize like, okay, I want to be consistent, I'm going to draw for at least 15 minutes a day, I'm making it my number one priority, but you're not scheduling it at the same time every day, it's really difficult for it to become a routine and habit. So if you can set that time every single day and hit on it day after day after day, it might be a little bit difficult in the beginning, but you'll get to a point where it's just automatic and it doesn't matter anymore. You don't even think about it. You just wake up, 7:30, you do your drawing, and then you're done for the day. And your skills are just improving so quickly because you're able to do it every single day without having to think about it. There's no more struggling or forcing yourself to sit down and do something. It just comes automatic. And I think the quicker that you can get to that point, the better off you're going to be. And the key, I think, is just asking yourself, like, why is this important? Why is learning to draw important? Why is learning a language important? Whatever it is that you want to focus on, because we only have so much time. You know, we all have 24 hours in a day, so even if it's only 15 minutes a day that you're working on certain things, there's a finite number of those 15-minute increments. So you just have to ask yourself, why is it so important? And when you can come up with a really great reason why, that's going to allow you to push past these times when things get really difficult. Just a quick example for myself. When I was a kid, I knew that I wanted to work on video games. I've told this story many times, but that was the thing that I wanted to do. 7 years old, I knew that working on video games was the number one thing that I wanted to do in my life with my life. So I spent my time learning about it, as much time as I could, and anything that was around what I thought a video game artist would do, I would learn that as well. So even though, you're 7 years old, you don't really understand how things really work, you still do have an idea. I knew that while playing games was fun, just playing them wasn't actually going to make anything. You actually had to sit down with a computer and do something. I didn't know what it was at the time, and I didn't even have a computer. But I just did it, and I was consistently working on it. It's just I didn't stop working at it. And because I knew that I had so much power behind why I wanted to stay consistent with this and what I was doing, over time, all that work just started to compound. I started to learn more about the right things to do. I started getting introduced to the right people who could point me in the right direction. And I just kept going and going and going. But that was a huge burning why. It's like I found my calling for why I was on this planet was that I wanted to become a video game artist, period. There's nothing else that I wanted more than that. And when you have that huge reason why, all of the stuff that we've been talking about right now becomes so much easier. All right, I want to bring this back to where I started, wrap things up, keep this as a very short episode. So today, there's no guest. And the simple reason why was that we were too busy doing other things. I know that we could have gotten a guest on if we were a little bit more organized, but we just, in this instant right now, we weren't able to do it. So this was always my backup plan. I knew that at some point we were going to fall down with being consistent. So I had a backup plan just saying, well, if we can't get a guest, I know I could always just record something myself, talk about what I'm doing personally so that people can learn from that. So here I am. This is my backup plan so I can get back on track with having regular guests on. So I'm going to ask you, what is your backup plan that when you stop drawing, what are you going to do to get back into the habit, into the routine where you're not beating yourself up, you just say, hey, I fell off, what happened in this situation and how can I get back so that I'm doing it consistently? All right, I think that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed this one. I know it's a little bit different. If you did like it, please do shoot me a message. I'm Mitch@pencilkings.com. I'd love to hear about the thing that you're going to be consistent. I'd love to hear about in the past when you've fallen down. And I find it's really interesting because it doesn't matter what you're trying to do, your fall down point, and for me, again, that's 3 weeks, it seems to be consistent for all habits. So it's like you have this internal clock where you just break down. And it could be, 1 week, it could be 3 months. I'm not sure, but I would love to hear. And if you like this episode and you'd like to hear more of them, go over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review and just tell us what more you would like, an in-depth kind of one-on-one talk that's not a guest, and I would love to make that for you. So I hope you have an awesome day, and I'll be back next week with a guest. Once again, this is the Pencil Kings podcast, and have an awesome week. Take care.
Scope demands patience, skill, years of practice.
Ah, you talk like a fool. I would trade a century of practice for an ounce of inspiration.